Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, and a beautiful day in the making here in the Macedon Ranges. Actually quite warm this morning, which is very unusual for this time of day, which means maybe finally we're going to get some consistent, nice weather. On the weekend, isn't always the way. Thought I'll go and wash my car, no rain forecast. So go down there and spend half an hour washing my car, and about 2 hours later when the sun goes down it starts pouring rain. Not just pouring rain like consistently, I'm talking about like 3 minutes, just enough to completely obliterate the job I've just done on my car. Anyway, first world problems, as I say. All right, on to the boxing. Now I just want a little bit of a recap of, again, the wash up of the weekend's fights. I won't spend too much time on it. I think we've all watched and read a lot of what's happened over there in the Saudi Arabia card. I'm talking about with Beterbiev and Bivol. The only real thing with that going forward is that you would have seen that Dimitri Bivol's team have lodged a protest about the fight. Now there has been a little bit of confusion about it though. A lot of people thinking it's to protest the actual result of the fight. That's not the case. It is in fact against one of the judges, the judge who scored at 116-112. And I think from what I saw, I think we all saw after the fight too, with Eddie Hearn and Bivol's manager, very upset, very emotional. I can see that, but I think in the cool light of day, they have sort of calmed down. But what they do want is a please explain from the powers that be about that judge. Now, I'm not sure, even though I 100% disagree with the decision, I'm not quite sure there's grounds for appeals and protests and all that sort of stuff. I mean, the guy judged it the way he saw it. I don't think there's really any, as far as I can see, any look of anything, any wrongdoing there. But I think I have seen a lot of people say they had it 8 rounds to 4 for Beterbiev. Now I think that is just way off the mark. But again, people are entitled to their opinion. So yeah, maybe it'll just be, as they say, a please explain. The judge will say, well, this is the reason I scored it that way. This is the way I saw it. And really, is there anything that anyone can do about it? I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, if there's any wrongdoing in the matter, well, of course, do what you've got to do. So just clout myself with a branch there. Yeah, so, I mean, we've seen some other really, I won't say dodgy, but questionable decision over the journey. I remember, was it Canelo, was it the draw with Mayweather? So one of the judges, did they score it for Canelo, or was it a draw or something? We've seen other fights, many fights over the years anyway. I think one of them might have been Canelo, Golovkin as well, but you get where I'm going. I mean, over the journey, there has been some eyebrow raising judging, but that's just the way it is. We all see it differently. And as I said, in this respect here, I've seen some people have it 8 rounds to 4 for Bivol, others have it 8 rounds to 4 for Beterbiev. So I get what they're trying to do and maybe hold the judges accountable, but I don't see it going anywhere. And maybe what they've got to do is we have a press conference after the fight with the fighters and managers and trainers. Maybe there's got to be an appearance by the judges where they discuss how they came to their decisions, because that would have been the perfect fight to do it. To have the judges lined up in the press conference and being asked questions about, especially from the people that thought Bivol won, it would have been very, very good viewing, I think, wouldn't it? So maybe we'll get that in the future. I think someone suggested having, this is on the show last night, suggesting having the judges in a separate room rather than at ringside, and they can have access to slow motion replays, all that sort of stuff. So, and different angles from the cameras. So it's an interesting concept. I suppose you would never rule it out, would you? Because there's, the sport's always evolving somewhat. Sometimes it actually goes backwards, in my opinion. But anyway, all right. So just, I think I did mention last night, I think that Fraser Clark did go in for the operation on his head. The doctor did say that the injury that he actually sustained against Wardley was almost like someone being hit in the head with a brick, or literally being hit in the head with a brick. That's the sort of injury that that causes. So that is amazing to think that a guy with boxing gloves on could do the same damage that someone throwing a brick at his head would have caused. So, but the good news is apparently he's had the operation, he's all good, but I would think he'll be out of action for quite some time to let that heal, and no doubt be back probably in about 12 months, I would probably think. There's been a lot of feedback about Ben Whittaker's performance as well. I must admit at the time watching, I thought, ooh, that seems a bit dodgy to me. You know, did he actually cause the fighters to go over the ropes? Did he maybe milk it a little bit afterwards? And I sort of almost brushed it off, but there has been more and more, more talk about it in the last couple of days. Being very critical of Ben Whittaker, so he's got a little bit of making up to do, young Ben. I think maybe they bit off a little bit more than they can chew, and took the opportunity to, when that did happen, but I don't think he deliberately went out there to say, all right, let's drag him over the ropes and cause an end to the fight. I just don't think you can do that. But I think when it did happen, I think he took the opportunity to maybe milk the injury or whatever he sustained in the fall, and say, look, I can't continue. Take the draw, move on, and no doubt there'll probably be a rematch at some stage. So plenty of things going on after the fight, or the fights in Saudi Arabia. One thing I will say about the lead up, well, the whole event in particular, this is from an Australian point of view, with the media here in Australia, and I know yesterday they did give the fights a bit of coverage, Sky, Tim coming up, but I just, in the lead up to the fight, I think I might have mentioned it either in the live or in one of the videos beforehand, but absolutely zero coverage from the Australian media. Now, probably just maybe more focusing on the Victorian media, the Herald Sun here in Melbourne. I'm assuming it's the same up in probably in Sydney and Queensland with their major papers, but not one article or anything about Jai Opetaia's fight against Jack Massey or Sky Nicholson's fight against Raven Chapman. In the past, I've also been guilty of not covering Jai or Sky or George Kambosos or whoever it might be. So I don't know where we're going with the sport in this country, if I'm being honest. Now, again, I know they did a spread yesterday covering all the results, but isn't it a little bit late after the fact to cover the results? We want excitement in the build-up. I mean, in a week we've got 3 fighters fighting for world titles. Now, Tim, of course, doesn't fall into this category, and I suppose that's the argument from a lot of fight fans out there, is that Tszyu, every day there's probably 4 or 5 articles on his fight coming up, and most of the time is when they're looking for fill-in stories for the boxing sections, they'll just put a Tszyu or Nikita Tszyu story in there, and just because I know people will watch it. But yeah, I've got to say, really disappointed in it, and I often tell people this is the reason why you would see that a lot of the big promoters and the fighters themselves don't necessarily want to fight in Australia. Now, as fight fans, we all want the big fights here, and we've had big fights here, of course, most recently Kambosos and Lomachenko, Kambosos Haney, go back to Horn, Pacquiao, all the rest of it. But overall, fighters like Jai Opetaia, Sky Nicholson, you can see that why the promoters are saying, look, it's great that you want to go to Australia, but we don't get the coverage, we don't get the love. We do get that over in our events here in the UK and Saudi Arabia. So it's a sad state of affairs when you look at it that way. When we look at Australian boxing being never been healthier as far as our fighters go, but even with all that success, we still can't get the media involved, and I'm talking about the mainstream media. It's just again disappointing. And how are those fighters supposed to feel when their home country won't even give them a story, whereas over in the States and England and wherever else around the world, those fighters are pretty much household names amongst boxing fans, and over here they could walk down the street and no one would even recognise them. So it's a little bit sad. I did mention, I think yesterday, that Sky Nicholson did say that she's been a little bit frustrated she hasn't been able to get a fight at home. Well, maybe just tell her to look at what's happening in the papers over here. But very, very disappointing. One guy, of course, as I said, he's getting a lot of coverage, is Tszyu. And look, and if you didn't know about the whole thing as well, I think I've explained it in the past. No Limit, of course, have got Tszyu and Tszyu and a few of the gunfighters here in Australia. And there's obviously a arrangement or deal with the media that all their events get saturated in coverage. They really do. And then you have, as I said, Jai and Sky and whoever else not getting a lot, and the Maloneys and you name it. So that's the reason why. So look, that's the state of play. Obviously it's come with the No Limit deal with Fox and Main Event, so it coincides with the media as well. So yeah, look, I understand how it works, but doesn't mean we have to be happy about it. But anyway, we move on. But as for Tim, so he's obviously in Orlando, Florida at the moment, and a little bit going on with him. He's settled in pretty well. I did see he's done a couple of interviews over there, and a little bit, I was going to say, the war of words, not really, just a little bit of back and forth for the first time. I mean, we're a week out from the fight, and finally we're starting to get some feedback from Tszyu. I think he did an interview, and look, he's very hard, like probably a lot of the Russian fighters are, hard to sort of get a read on. Very stoic, very stern, very serious. And I suppose that's the way it is. But he's saying that Tim's a hype job, and the reason he hasn't had big fights in the past is because people have avoided him. I don't really think that's the case, but sometimes things get lost in translation as well. But yeah, for the first time, just a few barbs sort of either way. Tim, of course, called that out and said who would be scared of this guy and all the rest of it. But I'm sure we'll get a little bit more in lead up to the fight. Anyway, just speaking of Tim, I did see that he's actually decided to go and live in the States full time. And I think we all maybe saw this coming. So I think he's lived over in Vegas for most of the year anyway. And so he's going to pull up stumps in January apparently and move to Las Vegas full time. He's actually looking for houses at the moment. So look, I don't think it's a bad call, really. I mean, he spends most of his time over there anyway. He has long training camps there. Obviously loves the lifestyle. And look, to be honest with you, between me and you, he's probably living my dream. Not so much as being the fighter over there, but to be living in Las Vegas, to be at all the fights all the time, just the Las Vegas atmosphere, just the lifestyle. And I'm sure actually if you lived there it wouldn't be as glamorous as sort of going over there for a week or two here or there, but there is a lot to do there out in the burbs. You don't have to just be on the strip all the time, but I think he just loves being around the city itself. He's probably grown up watching all the big fights there, and probably like me dreamt of maybe getting there one day. Now he has the opportunity of living there. He's set up at the UFC gym there apparently. They've really struck up a really good relationship with the owners of the gym, and he's got his own little corner that he works out of. He can get all sorts of sparring partners pretty much with a click of the fingers. No doubt he'll come back to Australia for different things, but it looks like he's well and truly entrenched now in the American lifestyle, particularly the Las Vegas lifestyle, and good luck to him. If you can do it and you've got the money to it and you're able to do it well, good on him. And I think living the boxing life over there full time will even make him better. I think sometimes look, we've got some great gyms over here, but I think I've said before, it's just different over there, and I can't really explain why. It's just entrenched in the culture over there. Fighters just live in the gym. Gyms are big families. I don't know. It's as I said, it's a little bit hard to explain, but I think he'll love it over there. Obviously, he already does love it over there, and he'll do really good things. And as I said, I think he'll improve a lot just by living over there, and just loving life. So good on him. Now, just before I go, there's one thing I wasn't overly happy about seeing last night. I think I read it, that the rugby boys, the No Limit guys, are looking to do a rugby show. This has been done before, I know, but I've got to say I'm not a particular fan of what they're doing next. It's November 29th. They're doing a NRL and NRLW show. So I think they've got captains, there'll be points, probably a little bit like the 5 versus 5 concept. No Limit have obviously looked at what's happened with that with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, and now they're going to do a rugby version. I'm not sure whether it's state versus state or whatever it's going to be, but look, I just think, I said this last night on Talking Boxing, that I think with everything that's going on in the world and the dangers involved in boxing and the CTE worries with football players and other sportsmen, I just don't understand why ex-rugby players or football players, in the late 30s, early 40s, whatever it might be, are jumping in the ring. Guys, it is not easy. This is a tough sport. And we've seen it in the past, rugby players, AFL players getting knocked out cold because they probably don't really have an idea of how dangerous boxing is. And I understand it's a free country and you train, you can do what you want, but I've just got a feeling that a lot of people think it's almost fun. Yeah, well, and you've seen it in the past with celebrities and everything else getting in there. I just don't like it. I suppose I'm just one of those old school boxing fans who just want to preserve the integrity of the sport. We've seen it with YouTubers and all the rest of it. Is it going to take someone getting seriously hurt or killed before this sort of stuff gets banned? And look, maybe I'm being a little bit over dramatic. Now these guys want to train properly and have proper boxing careers like Paul Gallen did. I take my hat off to Paul. Sonny Bill Williams and Barry Hall to some extent took the fight game seriously, but these rugby players who just think, oh well, for a bit of a goof we might train up for a couple of months and jump in and have a fight. I just think it's fraught with danger, and these are big guys as well. These aren't just little 60, 70 kilo guys. These are all in 90, 100 kilos. So I don't like it. Especially when like you might have these rivals from different teams or states, whatever it might be, and that's great. It looks good for the No Limit boys pumping up and making a few bucks out of it. But what happens if one of those guys is actually pretty proficient in boxing and goes really well, and the opponent, who might have been a bit of an arch rival on the football field, hasn't really got the same prowess and gets in there and gets his absolute block knocked off? I just don't like it. And again, especially with the dangers involved with boxing and all the rest of it, and the problems with brain injuries that are a major concern, I just don't think it's a good look for anyone. And again, just as someone that loves boxing and wants to preserve what's left of its integrity, I don't like that people treat it as a circus, and then when something goes wrong, everyone points at boxing and says, see, that's why it should be banned. That's the danger we have, not only for the combatants themselves, but the sport. And it's easy then for the people that are against it to use examples to ban it or whatever it might be. And we always thought it'd be almost impossible for it to happen, but look, we're very, very close to boxing being turfed out of the Olympics. So it shows that it's not infallible, it's not untouchable, is boxing. So, in this watered down society that we live in these days, any excuse to get rid of barbaric sports like boxing. So those people that are just clueless and have no idea what's actually involved in boxing and what it means to so many people and what it does for so many people. But anyway, that's my little soapbox for today. So guys, that is going to do it. Hope you have a great day. I didn't get a chance to talk about the Japanese fights. Just quickly though, Junto Nakatani with the win. He looked fantastic. What was it? Susutsi, I think it was, with the upset over Inoue, and was it Kafu with the upset over Tanaka. I think most of you guys would have seen it out there. I won't go into too much detail, but they were the results. A little bit of a spanner in the works for Andrew Maloney. He was looking to fight Tanaka. Well, that fight is not going to happen now. You think that Tanaka will rematch Kofu, and Andrew might miss out again, but we'll see how we go. But guys, that's probably the extent of my little review. Check it out. It was on last night. So Japan just leading the way as far as the fights go. We might touch on a little bit more yesterday. We'll touch on a little bit more tomorrow when I watch the replays of all the fights, because I only caught the last bit of Nakatani. So guys, have a great day. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow, and we'll see you then.